Good afternoon and welcome to the Archer City ISD Teacher Incentive Allotment Optional Stakeholder Meeting and Overview. The purpose of this meeting is to talk about Archer City ISD's involvement in the Teacher Incentive Allotment, or TIA, the who, what, when, where, and next steps of the Teacher Incentive Allotment, the time frame. The two keywords for the day are validity and reliability. Everything that we do through teacher incentive allotment as we craft our application and our processes must be reliable and valid. So the teacher incentive allotment, a rough overview, is that it was introduced by House Bill 3. It currently is a $250 billion line item in the state's budget. There are talks of creating specific legislation because there are concerns that being a line item in the budget, it could be amended by later legislative sessions. However, if they make the legal statutes around it, that it could have more of a force of law. It is still in House Bill 3, so it does have that, but there's talks of having it stand alone, and those are according to Senator Drew Springer or Representative James Frank, who presented at Region 9 back in January. Mike Morath, who's Commissioner of Education, stated his desire is to help teachers earn six figures. In fact, that's a stated goal in House Bill 3, which is, again, the seminal piece of legislation that built TIA. As of September, there had been four cohorts A, B, C, scratch that, three cohorts, A, B, and C, that had gone through. We are looking at cohort D. The state has paid out $40 million to 36 districts currently. Who's participating? This is a rough list. It's not an all-inclusive list of the 36 districts, but it gives you an idea of who's participating throughout the state so far. So how did certification process work? Well, we don't really know because the site's under construction. Just kidding. The site is under construction, but we know a lot about the extensive process. And again, you have to remember that everything has to be valid and reliable. The certification process through the application is typically a 5-year process. Most districts start with STAR because that has been proven to be a valid and reliable measure of student growth. We want valid and reliable measures so we can align best practices, student growth, and teacher observations to a quantifiable monetary amount. Without validity and reliability, we could count on friendships like Cletus and Boss here. So that's what we want to stay away from with teacher incentive allotment. We don't want to uh, buddy up to the boss to be able to stop. Now let's see if I can get back to teacher incentive allotment. Here we go. So again, the state expects, and Texas Tech does all of the confirmation for application processes. So we want to get our system confirmed through a valid and reliable process in a small pilot section, and then we can extend to areas like our high school CTE classes with industry-based certifications, or we can look at our K through 2 areas and what that means to have a valid and reliable measure. So those are things that are coming up in the future. Uh, but the best practice advice that we've received is to not start whole scale, that we have to phase those areas in. Otherwise, if we submit an application with a whole bunch of moving parts, instead of rejecting or rescinding one part, it's likely that our entire application would be rejected. So let's talk about payouts. So who's eligible for a payout? The payouts are only for certified teachers. The district receives money only for certified teachers with a PEIMS code of 087. That's who qualifies for a payout. So the payout amount, according to statute, 10% retained from the district level for administrative cost. 90% of the payout amount goes to the teacher. And that is consistent with our stakeholder surveys that we had sent out at the first of the year. And then also consistent with stakeholder surveys is teachers were evaluated through T-tests, at least one 45-minute classroom observation. And again, that is at least one 45-minute classroom observation. So what does this mean specifically for Archer City ISD? If you go on the TIA website, and the TIA website can be found at tiatexas.org, right there, tiatexas.org. It'll show you the chart that says that Archer City Elementary, for a recognized teacher, the district retains $6,280, exemplary level $12,560. Master's level teacher would generate for the district $22,934. So 90% of those amounts would go to that teacher. At the high school level, the numbers are a little bit smaller, and the reason being is there are two things that influence the payout amount. Number one is whether you're a rural or urban school. So you can see that we are flagged as rural schools. We are flagged as a rural school district. Second, please. Give me just a second. I think I'm outsmarting myself here. Here we go. So we are a rural school. The other indicator that affects the payout amount is the socio-emotional status. So the lower income schools, and Archer City Elementary has a higher rank of low SES, meaning that more students, a greater percentage of students turned in free and reduced lunch forms. So that is why they are identified as a Title One, and lower SES than the high school. The high school level is at about 48% right now, and so that enables the elementary to pull a little bit more than at the high school level. So what's the process? So this is the time frame again from that TIA Texas website. You'll notice a few things. The application is due the 15th of April, and we will know by November whether we're approved through Texas Tech. If we're approved, then sorry, go back. We'll know the results of our application by August. When we get the approval, then they're going to say, go ahead and start collecting data for a pilot year. So that will, the review for that data will start in November 22. So if they find that we are valid and reliable and that the administrators aren't skewing the data and that we have items in place that are consistent with the expectations of TIA in accordance with House Bill 3, then we will receive a final designation. April of 2023, with the initial payouts being September 2023 or September 24. So this is something that does have kind of a lengthy timeline, but we have to start now to be able to receive that and to be competitive with other districts in the region. Let's talk about an observation. What does an observation look like? Well, imagine you get points for each category. And that's just the easiest way to break it down. So for distinguished, you get 5. For accomplished, you get 4. Proficient, you get 3. Developing, you get 2. And then if you're an improvement needed, then you get 1, just based on our rough math. So you can see that the observation looks at domain 2 and domain 3 from the t-test model. Basically, the best way to boil this down is things that are more student centered and student centric are going to get the higher scores. Things that are more teacher centered and teacher centric are going to achieve the lower scores based on that t-test model. I'll tell you that Amy Huseman and I are going to participate in a great deal of calibrations between now and 20 and August to make sure that we have inter-rater reliability and that we are rating in accordance with the t-test rubric, because that's one of the biggest areas. If we are not rating in accordance with the t-test rubric, then there's going to be skew in the data, and so Texas Tech's going to come back and say, no, that's not a valid and reliable measure. You're going to have to go back to the drawing board, Archer City ISD. But you can see that this example for this teacher, they received proficient in 2.1, 2.2, they received accomplished here. And one of the things that you'll notice is proficient is rock solid, and that's true. But teachers that are going to be eligible for our teacher incentive allotment, they're going to be higher than just 3s across the board. If you average this out, so 33 points divided by the 8 dimensions, it's going to be about a 4.1. So 4.1, based on the math here, that would be an exemplary rated teacher. So, are there other options? And the answer is yes. By statute, any teacher may request a second evaluator to complete their summative evaluation process. So, if you go through, if you're on the high school campus and we go through the evaluation process, and it just doesn't seem like it's lining up, by statute in Texas Education Code, you always have the right to request a second evaluator, and then we go through the process that way. The other way, and I believe there's 26 different areas that a teacher can be national board certified. And if you're national board certified for the professional teaching standards through this process, now this is not a weekend training. It's an extensive training. It usually takes a year to 18 months or possibly even longer to complete. But if you go through that process, then any teacher that presents that accreditation automatically comes in at the recognized level. So that could be, $5,900 to $6,200 depending on which campus you're on. So what are the next steps? Archer City ISD will initiate the TIA application based on STAR testing and t-test calibrated observations. Administration may seek some video recorded lessons to serve as calibration pieces. These are used internally, and they're used to ensure that that the administration is rating in the same regard. So it would not be anything, and TIA actually says that administrators across the state can seek these, but they cannot be used for anything except for good. So if you see something higher on that video recorded lesson, then you can use that as evidence of growth. But it's not going to be something where we can say, we got you, and that's going to count against you. That's not in the spirit of the TIA legislation. So we're going to roll this out in grade levels. Again, we want to put forth a system that is small at start and then can broadly expand later on. So grades 3 through 8 in EOC in the first year is what we'll submit in our application. If that application is approved, we'll move forward with that. And then we'll expand to K through 2 and our CTE certified areas. So we we're also looking for more options for pre and post test, and that's something that's going on through the state level. So it's very tricky because, again, those have to be considered valid and reliable according to the College of Education at Texas Tech University. So I had a interactive site here. I was going to do a poll everywhere, but for the sake of time, if you have any questions at all, and I welcome your questions, and I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email me. What I'd like to do is I would like to create an FAQ as we go through here. So if you have a question, I know somebody else has the question, and I would love to have just a guidance document that is specific to our to our district here at Archer City. But again, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email me. The last thing that I'll leave you with again is the website tiatexas.org. That's a very good website to get a little bit more information about this. I know a lot of you have already done a lot of research on it, but if you have any other questions, that's a really good resource. Or I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much, and go Wildcats.